Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Absolute Green Arrow issue 3, written by Pornsak Pichetshote, with art by Raphael Albuquerque, colors by Marcelo Mayalo, and letters by Jeff Powell. Diana Lance makes a breakthrough in her case this issue as she reminisces about her first ever fight in the MMA ring, a fight where she earned the name the Black Canary. In the present, Diana learns about the dead body they found in Oliver's bunker, a runaway named Guillermo Garcia. She has no idea why he was in that bunker or what all the eyes all over his body were, and her thoughts are interrupted by Jack, an old friend of her father's from the Star City Police Department. She doesn't want to see him since obviously Hammond is feeding them bullshit leads, so she tries to leave, telling Jack that she put a target on her back and doesn't want him involved. But Jack isn't taking no for an answer, wanting to help get her whatever she needs for old time's sake. Dinah though asks when was the last time he talked with her father, but Jack and him haven't spoken in a long while, with Jack believing he's a type of Judas to the Lancers for what he did to Dinah's mother. Dinah has no love lost for her mother though, knowing that she hurt a lot of people. Now this is an interesting thing because it's the first time we've probably heard Dinah's mother be spoken about, with the hints at something going down that shattered their family, and my theory is that she was the original Black Canary, and maybe she got turned in by Hawkman, or was somehow turned in by her own police department or something, and the scandal broke the family apart. It might also explain why Dinah does seem to have a disdain for costumed individuals and hates the name Black Canary that she was given in the MMA ring. Upset with Jack's words, Dinah leaves, deciding to run down her final lead. Days prior, Hector Hammond returns to his penthouse after weeks in hiding, and it's not long until the Green Arrow killer attacks. The masked man learns this isn't Hector though, it's a decoy as Malcolm Merlin and his security team ambush the Green Arrow. Diana knows that this was actually a big ruse set up by Hector as they discovered Green Arrow was able to hack into their networks, and it's how they got access to all of their targets and where they would be. Green Arrow manages to escape using bombs he planted on the external windows of the penthouse, detonating them and giving himself an escape route. I really like the use of arrows here as not just weapons. He doesn't particularly have trick arrows, he just got those poison arrows that can immediately kill someone when they touch them. But I like what he does here with the arrows where he shoots them at the building across from them and uses them as a type of ladder, firing them into the wall and climbing up them one by one. Shows some forethought and tactical knowledge. Someone would have to be a damn good archer to do that sort of stuff, and we know Oliver was. We also know Roy was as well. The hacking into the networks to get the information about the targets also screams Mia Deirdre, as that was her whole thing as well with computers, and it makes me think that this is still a multi-person thing and a bunch of different people are playing at being Green Arrow at different times. In the present day, Diana breaks into Roy Harper's home that he secretly purchased before disappearing off the face of the earth. Diana finds Roy is actually hiding out in the building, pinning him to the wall with his own red arrow. Diana interrogates him, demanding to know why he has a bow and arrow and what he has been up to the last couple of nights. So I guess Roy in this world, while doing the whole rich party boy drug addict thing, is also an exquisite archer as well. It's more clues to the mystery and maybe a red herring, pun intended. Roy explains that the bow is for protection against Diana since he believes that she killed Oliver. Diana figures that this is indeed about revenge, and he's so obsessed with Oliver that he would kill for the man, having it on camera that he actually dug up Oliver's grave. Roy tells her that he did that to prove that there is nothing in the grave because Hector Hammond stole Oliver's body since he is still alive, something which actually catches Diana off guard. Back in the present, Green Arrow escapes onto a nearby rooftop, but Merlin anticipated that and the guards stationed on every rooftop open fire on him. Green Arrow fights his way past the men and jumps down to a lower roof, but Diana is immediately on him, smashing through a door and catching the killer off guard and shooting him in the chest, but Malcolm's security opened fire on both of them, almost catching Diana in the crossfire. Diana remembers finding out the guys shooting were all on the betting apps and making predictions about how and when Green Arrow will be killed, hence why they were very bloodthirsty and eager to get him, even if it meant killing her or some innocents who try and help the Green Arrow escape. Diana really has her work cut out for her since everyone on every side is just trying to kill her, and in this case it's just over winning a couple of bucks on a betting app. The Absolute Universe really is a messed up place. We keep seeing this sort of stuff where like just the people just do not care about what is going on around them. And that's like part of like the conditioning they've been through with like their media and everything, how it's been controlled by like Jack Grimm and all of these other people kind of feeding them lies and making them believe things are not real or things aren't what they seem. As the people try and help Arrow get away, one is shot in the arm, making the vigilante go back and get him to safety. The men tell him to get out of there and Green Arrow doesn't wait, leaping off the building. Diana questions the men after the incident, finding that the men helped him since after everything they had seen and been through, a serial killer felt like the only one who was actually fighting for the people like them. The framing of this guy killing rich pedophiles and people who are taking advantage of the downtrodden as a serial killer is peak Absolute Universe. Like, yeah, of course this universe run by Darkseid and overseen by the Joker and all of these other criminals would villainize a guy who would want to stop the chaos and make people answer for their crimes. And because of that, it's completely changed the landscape on who the people champion as their heroes. And now it's painted Green Arrow as a serial killer and the people are starting to come around to his way of thinking. The next day, Brittany Brandon starts her podcast telling her listeners about what's going on in the world and how seeing the rich always win and constantly being on the down makes her very tired. She also is shocked that people are actually loving the idea of a serial killer running around the city. She wishes there was other ways to do things, better ways, hoping someone would hurry up and show her. In the present, Diana has Roy drive her through the city, thinking about what to do with Roy, since if she took him to the cops, he would just disappear, just like how Mia did and has suddenly disappeared. She thinks about what Connor Hawkes said to her and how Mia was obsessed with a drug called Miraclo, so she wants Roy to fill her in with the blanks, keeping the gun trained on him as he tells her that after Oliver was killed, he knew he had to go into hiding since they would know that he knew about Jubal Slade. He knows the boating accident Oliver was supposedly killed in was just a cover-up and he's done business with Hammond, knowing the man is everywhere. Diana realizes that Roy sold Oliver out, and Roy reveals that he only had his assistant remove anything online that linked the two of them together, which Diana knows tipped Hector off and he got the drop on Oliver. Now that's a really neat twist. Roy is indirectly responsible for Oliver Queen's death, all because he was a coward and wanted to cover his own ass and, save face with a lot of these billionaires. This Roy is completely devoid of that heroic streak he gets from Oliver coming in and helping him out when he needed it the most, and really it's because Oliver himself is not exactly a good guy in this universe, and he's been getting into bed with all of these billionaires and playing their game to try and get ahead and do something good, but he still has to play their game, and it cost him his life. So one of the things I've really enjoyed about this Oliver, he's completely morally grey, and the more we learn about him, the more you're kind of realizing, maybe he wasn't a good guy. Roy reveals that his entire business hinges on a big investor who is friends with Hector, so he couldn't jeopardize his business or his revenue stream. Diana believes that he's high as a kite, but Roy is just tired and paranoid after being on the run for so long, making Diana realize that he isn't the killer. Roy tells her that he did what he could, and with Oliver, he kept making the wrong call. He reveals that 4 years prior, he and Oliver just made their first million at the same time, and they met at an archery range and became quick friends. Roy joked with Oliver that he's going to start an app called Red Arrows, so people could get rich by investing in the opposite of what Oliver did. But soon Oliver became a billionaire practically overnight thanks to Green Arrows, and it made him more miserable. One day at the range, Oliver is distracted, hoping Emiko would call him. Roy knows that he got into another fight with his sister, and Oliver reveals that Emiko wanted him to sponsor her high school sabbatical, but her friends are all brats, and she called him a hypocrite since he ran around town with Jubal Slade, despite the allegations. I'm loving this dive into Oliver's past and getting to know more about how being rich just ruined his life, since it's opened his eyes to what's actually going on in the world. He had that access once he made that $1 billion to things that the normal people in the Absolute Universe don't get to see, and it just made him so tired and miserable. Oliver tries to defend Jubal, knowing that his partying got out of hand, but he's pulled his act together, but Emiko won't talk to him now because of it, and now he has no idea where she is. Learning Emiko just up and ghosted Oliver after learning what Jubal did as well as how Mia did practically the same thing, makes me believe that they could be in cahoots and maybe they are the two behind the killer. Does make a lot of sense that they would want to hunt down these sex weirdo billionaires, and seeing as Oliver is being rather obtuse when it comes to wanting to do something against his so-called friends, can also see why they would want to cut him out of that. And then maybe when he got killed, they decided to do it in his name because maybe they realized that he was actually trying to help in his own way, and this might be something to honor him with. Roy tells Oliver that succeeding sucks since the world changes and people become leeches and jealous of the wealth and success. But if you become stressed out or have a bad day, they think you're just complaining over nothing. And if you have a good day, it is seen as gloating. Oliver asks how Roy handles it then, and Roy says he likes to prioritize and make sure friends feel like their lives aren't something to be ashamed of. I quite like this reverse here where this is something that Oliver would usually tell Roy, or like Roy would be feeling how Oliver is feeling here, but here it's the opposite where Roy's kind of sort of the more level-headed one in this situation at the moment, and he's giving Oliver advice on how to just deal with being a billionaire and how to compartmentalize stuff. Roy tells Dinah that after that day in the archery range, he and Oliver hung out more, but he couldn't keep up with the billionaire, and Oliver found more people on his level, and it led to his death. He laments about how if he was never around, Oliver might not have met these people, but now he can make it right, since while in hiding, he found out what Hector was up to and how to get to his island. Diana and Roy arrive at an airfield, and while cutting through the fence, Roy explains that everyone knows the type of girls Jubal was into and how he would fly them on his private jet out to his private island. But references to this island kept popping up after he was introduced to the royal family of Vlatava, a Eastern European nation, and Jubal was in charge of getting people to the island, and they all left from this exact airfield. Man, Pacheco is really laying on the Epstein stuff really thick with Jubal. I'm so surprised that he was actually allowed to do this sort of stuff, since whenever it comes to this sort of stuff, usually it's like vague hints, it's never really outright dialogue saying this character is a pedophile and owns a weird sex island. Like, that is not something that you usually see just outrightly said in comic books, but I love it. I love that we're getting to explore that and expose people to that this is actually something that's real and has happened in real life. The island also is a running thing with these billionaires in this world, since Joker also has a series of islands he likes to hunt people on and put people who try and look into who he is on, and so he can kill them and eat them. As they break into the hangars, Diana also asks Roy what he wants to find there, be it flight logs or some proof of the island's location, but Roy knows where it is as they are standing over it. A hidden elevator opens as Roy reveals that he's been planning this for a very long time, something that doesn't sit well with Diana, since maybe she underestimated Roy and he might be dangerous after all. The Green Arrow killer slowly stalks the duo from the shadows as Roy reveals that every billionaire is obsessed with anti-aging, and it's how Reese Tyler fits into all of this, as his great uncle Rex Tyler was a chemist and designed a super steroid called Miraclo for dying under mysterious circumstances. Miraclo boosted one's strength and endurance, but at the cost of their mind, as it warped a person's brain chemistry if they continue to use it. Hammond didn't care and bought the assets to Tyler's pharmaceutical company just to get it. I'm really loving how all of this is starting to fall into place and connect up. The Miraclo reveals from last issue make so much more sense now, with it being seen as some sort of anti-aging cure, and like the islands, we have seen billionaires across these Absolute books searching for some sort of anti-aging power or some sort of power that will prolong their life. Hammond tried to get a lantern over in the Green Lantern book, and now he's focusing on the Miraclo, and Joker has his Arkham developing stuff alongside weird fetus-eating chair things that he has that keeps him young too. The Flash book has Fort Fox and Project Olympus and what Barry Allen and Eleanor Thorne were up to. So all these villains have that one thing in common, which is they're trying to find that power that is going to keep them going and keep them chugging along so they never have to die. Also, like the Epstein stuff, it echoes a lot of the real life stuff, with that Brian Johnson guy, that billionaire who wants to try and age backwards, and he takes his blood from his son just to try and age backwards. Just like weird billionaire shit that like no one who doesn't have money for that sort of stuff would ever do. Roy reveals that Hammer managed to do it and resuscitated the dead by bringing Oliver back to life. Dinah reveals that she definitely misunderestimated Roy, as he wasn't dangerous, he's just outright crazy. She discovers that they have entered a lab lab where a body, or maybe just the skin of a man, lays on a table, weakly asking for help. Roy tells Dinah that Hammond's test subjects are all named after nursery rhymes like Mother Goose, Hickory Dickory Dock, and Solomon Grundy, who Dinah learns is a very real thing as the giant monster Solomon Grundy appears and attacks her. So this really cracks open a few more clues we've seen across the series, like the dead kid in Oliver's bunker, meaning he was a Hammond experiment. You know, he was covered in all of those eyes, just like Grundy is here. So maybe Oliver rescued him, or like was like keeping the body there as like proof of what Hector was doing. Maybe it was like some sort of blackmail material. Maybe even Oliver was trying to find out how to use the Miraculo against Hammond and weaponize it against him in some way. It does answer a question of like what that body was, but it also answers it with more questions in return. And I'm excited to find out what the hell Hammond and Oliver have been up to and what this version of Solomon Grundy is like, because so far it looks utterly terrifying, and I'm intrigued to see how Dinah and probably the Green Arrow are going to deal with it. Absolute Green Arrow issue 3 continues to dive deep into the storied and sordid life of Oliver Queen, a character who I liked before, but thanks to this Absolute version, I just absolutely love what they're doing with him. I love how the book is not afraid to get messy with its characters. No one is inherently good. There's some really great morally grey areas for these characters to exist in, and the Absolute Universe has done a great job exploring these, none more so than this book. Ties to the larger Absolute Universe in some really great ways, especially some other books like Green Lantern and Flash, and it feels really rewarding having read most of those books as well, and I can't wait to see what the next couple of issues have in store for Dinah and Oliver Queen. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.